DIY Jeff here for another instructional video. Today we're going to be replacing the alternator on this 2005 Honda CRV. So in doing some research on replacing the alternator, came across some controversy on whether or not you have to pull the radiator in order to get the alternator out of the engine and put the new one in. And while that would be the easiest way to do it, it does take quite a bit more time. And we'll see how it goes. We may have to, but let's get started and let's take a look. So the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to remove the negative battery cable. Anytime you're working on the engine, you always want to make sure that the battery is not hooked up. So I'm going to remove that first, and then I need to remove this top plastic piece. So there are push button clips, so those just need to be popped up with a screwdriver, and then they'll pop right up. And there's there looks like used to be the one there, that's gone. There, one's missing there. So I got a few of these. You're gonna want to pop all those up. That's step number one. So I'm going to show you how to do this. What you're going to do is get your screwdriver in here. You just want to pop this up just a little bit. And then you can take your hand and pop the clip out the rest of the way. So go ahead and do that on all of the rest of them. The next step will be to remove this bolt. This is a 9mm socket. Okay, with all the clips out and the bolt removed for the battery holder, this is going to just slide out. So you need to take this direction here. As you can see, it has tabs that are down in here. So you're just going to slide this direction, and then it will slide out like that. Alright, the next step is we are going to have to remove this metal bar. This brace has to come out. So you're going to have 4 screws here, here, and then 2 on the other side, here, and here. Okay, so after removing those 4 bolts, then you're going to want to remove this retaining clip, which will release this bar on this side. You need to remove this bolt, and there's also, and the reason you have to remove that bolt is because there is also a bolt underneath there. It's really hard to see, but as you can see, it's right there. So that's what you're trying to get to, so you can release this bar from that bracket. So you got to take this one off to do that. And I have done that on this side. As you can see here, I removed the bolt. This is loose, which allows this to be pulled out. Then allows you to go in and to pull that bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now. Alright, so now I have those bolts out, we're going to go to the next step. Before I do, just wanted to point out to you that whenever possible, I do like to leave my bolts back into their locations in case there are bolts that are specific to certain locations. So I've done that here just to give an example. But as you can see here, got my bolt here, my bolt here. So that just helps remind me and line up where my bolts go. So the next thing we're going to do here is we have to come down here and we have to remove these 2 bolts to release this bracket attachment here. So we're going to do that now. Alright, so now we have everything is loose on the top. Here, here. This is connected, but this is just the hood secure piece, and it's free underneath, so that can stay on there. This is all undone. So what we have down below that's holding it is a bar that goes straight down. So this is like a T-bar. So in order to get down there to get the bolt off that must be underneath there, we are going to have to take the plastic housing loose, and this is going to come off just like the top part did. So you have those retaining clips. So you're going to take those retaining clips and take those off and pull that plastic piece. Just a heads up on this one, there are at least 10 clips that have to come out. There's no bolts or screws, but there are clips, and they're all over the place. So make sure before you go pulling on it really hard that it's loose, and if not, then there is a retaining clip somewhere holding it in. And then note the place of those retaining clips so that you can get those retaining clips back in to hold that housing. All right, so now what we're going to do is go under the car, and that's the purpose of removing this housing so that we can get to the bottom of the T-bracket. And I found one bolt at the bottom of the T-bracket. Not sure if you can see it or not. So basically right here, it's really hard to see, but up here, go to the left, and that bracket's sitting here, and there's a bolt there. All right, so after getting that bottom bolt out, this should come loose. What I'm gonna need to do is watch out for this bracket. I'm going to lift up and around, and then the same on this side. And looks like we have a hose clamp that's attached. So we're going to take back here. We're going to take, there's a clamp here. You need to just squeeze it. I'm going to get a pair of pliers, squeeze that. This hose here, that's under here, it's being held in. That's what's holding it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and come right back. So I got the clamp off the other side, and it looks like there's also a clamp here. So we're going to take our pliers, squeeze that in, and push that through. Now, this should lift up and out. Except our wire's caught. All right. So the clamp, this, by the way, this is the cable clamp that is your hood release from your car. So that is connected. I'm gonna figure out here how to disconnect. Okay, instead of disconnecting that wire, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just lift this up and out of here. And we'll set this to the side. That way you don't have to disassemble that part. And that will serve the purpose of what we needed to do, being out of the way. The CRV has two fans, one here and one opposite for the radiator. We're going to remove this fan here to give us more room between the engine block and the radiator to be able to pull the alternator out. So the first thing we're going to do is under here, we've got one there and one there. So I've got, see if you can see this here. I got a plug here, a plug here, and then down at the very bottom, I don't know if you can see that down there at the bottom, there's also a plug there. We need to unplug those three, and then we'll start working on removing this fan housing. All right, we're going to take you down under the car here. When I was underneath disconnecting the clips, I noticed, well, first of all, as you can see there is the clip I pulled off, but that clip is attached to here. So this was down inside that little cream retaining clip, and you have to pop that retaining clip there. You push in on the top part of it, and it pops loose to release that wire. If not, you're not going to be able to pull the fan. So now I'm going to take the top two bolts out. One there, here, and here. Next we need to remove this bolt here. As you can see, I've already backed it out. But you need to remove this bolt, and that way this reservoir will move that direction just a little bit, which will give you some clearance to pull this fan out. All right, next you need to pull this hose up and over to create some clearance. Okay, gonna have to use two hands here, so bear with me, I'll be right back. But you're just gonna wiggle this loose, get this hose here up and around the housing so you can pull that out. Okay, so now we're going to be working on taking the serpentine belt off so that we can get down and get that alternator out of there. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take this power steering reservoir and we're just gonna release that just to give us a little bit more room to get down inside. As you can see on top here, we've got this here, and let me get my flashlight. Okay, so look there, and down below you can see where my flashlight is hitting down below. That is the tensioner pulley. We're going to get a wrench on that and pull that towards the radiator of the car, the front of the car. That will release the tension on the belt and we'll be able to pop that belt loose. So I've got the belt off. It ended up being quite the task because I don't have the right tool for the job. The bolt I showed you down on the bottom there, the second bolt down there, as you can see, that is the tensioner pulley bolt. And what you really need is a tensioner pulley wrench, which is an extremely long wrench you get down with, and then you can kind of pull back on and it releases the tension. What I ended up having to devise to make this work was putting this, which is a 14mm wrench, putting this on the bolt, and then I had a breaker bar. So in essence, I stuck this down inside with that on the wrench and then used this to pull, and it ended up being the same end result, just extremely difficult to hold on to everything. So if you have access to a tensioner pulley wrench, that would definitely be much quicker. This ended up taking me about 20 minutes to get that belt off. And the next thing is just to make sure that the belt has not come completely loose. If you want to replace your belt at this time, if your belt's a little worn, you can do that. I'm choosing to leave the belt on because the belt is still in good condition. Here is the new alternator, and this is a great guide to show what needs to come off of the old alternator. So it's sitting against the engine block, which is over here. And if you can see here, this is threaded. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not. That is a retaining bolt. So that's one thing we need to do is take that bolt off. I'm going to show you where that is on the engine. So down here underneath, you can see we have a little clip here. We don't have to do anything with that. But here is that bolt I was talking about that attaches this clip and this hose here covering to the alternator. So that right there, that bolt has to come out. You need to pull off that bolt there off the top. Head over to my YouTube channel for part 2 of this video.